All right, it's Crystal, the Nashville correspondent with UTellConcerts.com. During the flooding, a local establishment, the Wild Horse Saloon, was damaged and has been closed since. But they're going to reopen the doors on June 4th, and Puddle of Mud is going to be the band that helps us celebrate that reopening. I've got guitarist Paul Phillips on the line. Thank you so much for calling in.
No problem. You know how funny that sounds, right? The Puddle of Mud is reopening.
I know. Isn't that how you kind of got your name?
Yeah, it's kind of ironic. I don't know how I feel about that. But, yeah, that's how we got our name. Kind of the same thing happened to an old rehearsal room of ours, and the whole rehearsal room was basically one big puddle of mud, and kind of became the Puddle of Mud rehearsal space. And then, for lack of being creative enough to come up with something else, we got stuck with that name for eternity.
A lot of musicians lost their equipment in the flood. Is there a certain guitar or piece of equipment that if you lost it, you'd just be totally heartbroken?
I don't have anything super crazy, like some crazy vintage thing that couldn't be replaced. But I love all my guitars equally. So I think if I lost any of my guitars, I would definitely be upset because I play them all on a daily basis. So losing any of them would be heartbreaking to me.
I was looking at your Wikipedia page and I saw this thing about the American Most Wanted issue. You know all about that? What's that all about?
Yeah, that was crazy. I got wind of it, immediately called my attorney and was like, "Hey, make sure that they know I'm in Florida chilling, and this isn't me that's going around and doing this." And they knew, and America's Most Wanted contacted me and wanted me to do the show, and I obliged and helped out, and luckily the show worked, and they called him like a week later. But yeah, it was crazy. He was just going around and carjacking people, trying to kidnap women and whatnot, and going into bars and stuff and saying he was me. And it's kind of weird. He would just hold a knife up to somebody's throat and be like, "Hey, I'm Paul from Puddle of Mud. Let's go," or something.
Why did he choose you? Do you know?
Well, I have no idea. And I've obviously never talked to this guy, so I have no idea. And I kind of thought the same thing. I was like, man, if I could impersonate somebody, I would be like Slash or something, somebody way cooler. But then I thought about it as well, and I was like, if you rolled into a bar and said you were Slash, it's not going to go over too well. I'm like, no, you're not.
Well, I didn't know if maybe he knew you or you went to high school.
No.
Or something.
Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever met. You meet a lot of people, but like I said, I never talked to him, so I have no clue why it was me.
What a psycho. I'm dying to know, where did you first meet Fred Durst, and what was your first impression of him?
Well, we're both from Jacksonville, so I met him actually in a basement of a club that had a smaller club downstairs where local bands played a lot, and our local bands were playing together. Limp, I had heard of them, but I hadn't seen them yet. I remember thinking, I don't know what this is. I don't understand it, the whole rap and metal thing, but people seem to like it, and this is probably going to be big. And I was pretty right about that.
Personality-wise, Fred Durst, did he come off cool and everything?
He's always been cool to me. I've never really been in the situation where, I've heard the stories of where he can be not so cool. And, I think everybody's heard those stories. But, he's always been cool to me, but I can always say he was always very sure of himself and very positive, and I don't want to say arrogant. He was just confident, you know what I mean? He always had that kind of charisma about him, that he was bigger than he is at that moment. Obviously he became one of the, massive, but at that time he was just as massive in his own mind.
Hey, you need that type of confidence for what you guys do, so more power to
you. Yeah. To be a front man and go out there and do that, you got to have some sort of ego, or you're just going to stare at your shoes all day.
Yeah, absolutely. What was the name of your first band ever?
My first band ever was Entropy, which is a scientific term for basically the whole world is in a state of chaos at all times.
Rock or?
I was really growing up I was into metal, and started out very Pantera, Metallica, and Slayer, all the greats, kind of influenced by that. And then as the grunge movement came in, it kind of morphed into more of a Seattle sounding grunge band. Yeah. So it kind of had two different incarnations.
We always ask people, favorite concert that you've ever been to as a spectator?
There's been a few. One that sticks out was Lollapalooza 93, I think it was. Had three of my favorite bands at that moment, Rage Against the Machine, Alice in Chains, and Primus.
Wow.
And Tool as well. Tool had just came out. I think Rage Against the Machine was first at 12:30, and I remember just running to the Florida heat, straight into the pit at 12:30 in the afternoon, just dying, but just having the best time anyway.
What's your biggest guilty pleasure song?
Any song by Pink.
Oh, really?
I love Pink.
Yeah, she's
I don't know
hot.
why. There's just something about her voice. She can sing her ass off. A lot of girls don't have that, you know. They're just really pretty voices, which is great, but she's got this like raspy grit to her voice. Just awesome.
So, Volume 4, Songs in the Key of Love and Hate. How does this album differ from your other releases?
Stylistically and musically, I don't really think it differs that much. I think that we kind of have our sound that we make when we get in the room together. We recorded it differently. We recorded it in various spurts. We'd do like, you know, maybe a week, and then we'd go on tour for like 2 weeks, and then we'd come back and set up and record again for another week. And so it's kind of weird. I mean, normally you just kind of camp out in the studio and you just keep going. So that was different. We've never done that before.
Is there a favorite song for you on the album?
Probably Keep It Together. It's more of a, you know, kind of heartfelt, slower, ballady type song, but I think it came out really good, and I'm pretty proud of that one.
What else is going on for you guys this year?
Just finishing up a headline tour right now. We have about a week left, and then we're going out. I believe it starts on July 16th is the Carnival of Madness tour, which is Shinedown, Chevelle, Seven Dust, 10 Years, and Us. And that goes to, I believe, the beginning of September. That's pretty much our whole summer right there doing that tour. So that's going to be a big one, and it's going to be fun.
All right, so June 4th, Wild Horse Saloon in Nashville, the big reopening. And you're also playing with Saliva. I love those guys.
Yeah,
We're really
they're fun.
looking forward to it. Thank you for your time.
You got it. Thanks for having me.